Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to point out right now that today's video is going to be quite different than what I have been doing for a while. Another one of my interests has been paranormal stuff. So, as you can guess, today's video is going to be on paranormal things. So there is going to be 7 paranormal experience stories that I found online, which was, I swear, really hard to find. And then, at the end, there's going to be a bonus, which will be 2 haunted places. So, let's get into it. So, the first story. We lived in a big house that was located in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We grew up there and nothing ever happened. But when we went to my grandma's house that was just down the road, the creepiest things would happen to my sister. She would say at night after we all fell asleep, she would be woken up by a slap across the stomach. She thought it was me and came to my room to yell at me. When she came in, I was sound asleep and she freaked out, so I let her sleep in my room. Another time, we were outside playing and it was getting dark. I said as we were cleaning up, I had to go inside to the bathroom and I would be back. She said okay, but when I came back, she was lying on the ground, screaming and crying. She said she saw me come out of the house and run right at her, and then punch her in the face. Then she said I took off around the corner of the house, and when she went after me, she saw something horrifying. She said it was a tall creature, probably about 7 foot, and wearing a black robe. She said she saw it and froze in fear, and it kept looking at her, but all she could see was its glowing eyes from the darkness. Then she said it let out a horrible scream, and she blinked, and it was gone. She told my grandma, but she acted like my sister was playing. 2 days later, my grandma came flying up to our house at about 10:30 a.m. She came in screaming. She said she was last night in the kitchen making brownies when she heard someone at the front door knocking. She said it was around 8, so she was a little scared. But she went to see who it was, and there was no one. She thought it was some kid from down the road, so she didn't think anything of it. But then, later in the kitchen, she saw out of the corner of her eye, saw a little man walking from the living room up the stairs. She flipped out, but then she talked herself down, thinking she was just seeing things. She said she didn't go to bed until 3 in the morning, which isn't unusual for her. And she said it was around 10 in the morning when she felt the blanket being pulled off of her. She shot up and saw a little man at the foot of her bed, smiling. So she ran out of the house and came straight to us. She now sold the house. Now the second story. I was 12. I woke up to a rough shove, assuming that my sister was waking me up. It was the early morning, about 7:30. I groggily stepped out of the bed and was hit with hairspray fumes. I heard the sound of someone taking a shower, as well as loud hurried footsteps and repetitive spritzes of the hairspray can. I walked to the dresser and pulled out a blouse and a skirt. As I got dressed, I heard knocking on my door. I pulled my top fully on and opened the door. There was no one there. I was kind of freaked out right now, but I knew that it must have been my imagination, as I was about half asleep at the time. I exited the bedroom. I heard the shower shut off as I passed the lavatory, then my father's heavy footsteps. At the end of the hall, there was another restroom. I heard repetitive spritzes coming from there and called my mother. "Hey mom, I need to pee and dad's in the other bathroom." I heard my mother's voice. "Alrighty." It was definitely her voice, but alrighty was not something she had ever said. I rolled my eyes and walked away. I figured that I should wake my granddad, as I heard heavy snores coming from the room that he was sharing with my parents. I wondered why my parents hadn't woken him up. When I opened the door, I was scared to see that the room was empty. Just then, the noises and the smell of hairspray stopped. I ran downstairs and saw my roommates. Dad, Mom, Granddad, Clarissa, which I want to guess is their sister, they didn't specify, were already eating breakfast. I checked my watch and saw that it was already 10 o'clock. My mom stared at me. What? I thought. My sister then said, "What the heck?" I asked them what was wrong. My sister then said, "You literally just went to the bathroom," and pointed to the lavatory next to the small kitchen area. I walked over there and pressed my ear to the door. Sure enough, someone was there, washing their hands. I shook it off and counted my fingers. 10 of them. I wasn't dreaming. I knocked on the door, and inside the bathroom, I heard my own voice calling out already. I looked over at my parents, sister, and granddad, who were all pale. Behind my back, I heard the lock click, followed by my own voice saying, "Hey there, Sarah," and footsteps. I turned around just in time to see my own feet, dressed in my black velvet flats, turning the corner on the staircase. I felt paralyzed in fear, and goosebumps crept up my back. I wasn't able to move for about a minute before I told my family all about what had happened a few moments ago. My sister told me that yesterday, when she woke up, I wasn't in my bed, but she heard noises coming from the bathroom. When she went there, she saw me walking down the hall in my pajamas and called out to me, but I kept walking. When she went back to my room, I was still sleeping in my bed. She freaked out and didn't tell anyone. Fast forward the 2 years later, my cousin now has a 6-month-old baby, and we're talking to each other over tea. I told my cousin about what happened to me and my sister, and she froze. "That happened to you too?" she said. I felt the goosebumps return to my arms and legs. She then told me that she had woken up and walked downstairs when she saw her fiance, now husband, sitting at the table eating cereal. He greeted her, then said that he was going to get something from upstairs. It took him some time. Eventually, she felt sort of concerned and went to check on him. He was asleep, still in his pajamas. Third story. We lived in an old farmhouse that was rumored to be haunted, but we never saw any sign of it until one day. I was probably around 10 years old or so and was playing in my bedroom on a dreary, rainy day. For reasons unknown to me, my attention was drawn to one of my RC cars sitting still on a shelf. I was staring at it for a few seconds, and it revved up and drove off the shelf, crashing onto the floor. Immediately, I figured, haha, good prank, little brother. Then I remembered the remote control had been missing for some time. I flipped the car over to turn the switch off. It was already off. Then I opened the battery door and found it didn't have batteries in it. I'll never forget that incident till the day I'm gone. Fourth story. When my boyfriend was about 4 years old, he would talk to a man he saw in the mirror. Naturally, his parents were curious about his behavior and asked him questions about the man. He told his parents details about the man, including his appearance, hobbies, and how he died. It turned out that one of the former owners of the house was a man who had committed suicide in the house, and he matched the descriptions of the man my boyfriend saw in the mirror. When his parents found out, they moved out of the house a month later. Fifth story. So it was around May, June of 2019. My father was out of the station for some business-related work, so only me, my mother, and my little sister, who was 6 years old, were home. It was around evening when I was with my mom in the kitchen chit-chatting with her while she was making food. Let me give you a view of our kitchen. It was something like this, with a kitchen on the left side and the bathroom on the other. So if you stand in the kitchen, you can see if anyone goes into the washroom. My mother was facing towards the wall, and I was standing leaning on the kitchen stand, but I was looking towards my mom. Now, my little sister came running and went to the washroom and slammed the door. But we ignored it, thinking she was in a hurry. Now, 25 minutes later, I said to Mom that, "What is taking her so long? Why is she not coming?" My mother said, "Go have a look." I checked the washroom, but to my surprise, there was no one. Even the lights were off. I told my mom, and she said that it can't be possible, to go ask your sister. When I went to her room, she was fast asleep. I was shocked and scared to the core. I told my mom, and she was also scared of who came. When my sister woke up, we asked her if she came to the bathroom. She said, why would she use the common bathroom if she has her own bathroom in her room? It still haunts us. Now, the sixth story. When I was about 16 years old, I encountered something that still bugs me to this day. I woke up around 6 a.m. on a normal weekday and went downstairs to get ready for school. No one else in my family had woken up at this point. I got in the shower, still sleepy and could barely hold my eyes open. After a few minutes of showering, someone tried to get in, and I told whoever it was that I was in the shower. The person then proceeded to aggressively open the door. I saw the door handle going up and down like crazy, and he, she, whatever, knocked on the door harder and harder. And then it suddenly stopped. Didn't think that much about it, but when I got out of the shower, I realized that nobody was up yet. I proceeded with eating breakfast, and after a while, my dad came down the stairs. So I asked him if it was he who had wanted to use the bathroom earlier. He said no, and that both my mom and younger brother were still asleep. So it would have not been them either. And even if it had been any family member, they would not have tried to open the door so aggressively at 6 in the morning. Now, the last story. When I was in elementary school, I shared a queen-size bed with my older sister and our family dog, a mutt that looked like a short-haired lassie, would sleep at the foot of our bed every night. When I was about 6 years old, I woke up one night around midnight and saw a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. The figure was entirely in black without any eyes or a face. I tried to wake my sister up, but she rolled over to go back to sleep. My sister must have accidentally kicked the dog because the dog woke up and raised her head and started growling at the figure at the foot of the bed. The growling then woke my sister up and she saw the figure and started screaming. When my parents came into the room and turned the lights on, nothing was there. To this day, both my sister and I are adamant that we saw a ghost or other demon in our room. We know we aren't crazy because the dog saw it too. So now the bonus haunted places. So first, the Victoria's Black Swan Inn in San Antonio, Texas. Victoria's Black Swan Inn is a lush 35-acre home and wedding venue cloaked by 100-year-old oak trees in San Antonio, Texas. While it's a romantic scene ideal for nuptials, I've never heard that word before. I have no idea what that is. It's also allegedly infested by the spirits of those who've lived and died on the property. Built in the mid to late 1800s on a plot of land where 50 years earlier, 60 Mexican soldiers were killed in the Battle of Salado, the Krieg Revival Manor has had a plethora of owners, many of whom were prominent San Antonio socialites, and are also said to still be lingering there in the afterlife. Once operated as a dairy farm, the barn behind the primary residence is the most haunted building on the property. Many of the earlier occupants, including members of the Ripstein and Mahler families, spent their lives here. Later occupants included Sister Catherine Holbrook and Blanche Woods, Catherine's husband, who died at the home, and Blanche's children and grandchildren. Almost all of them are said to haunt the estate. The current owner, Joanne Rivera, lives in the stunning home with her family, and while it isn't actually a functional inn, she does partner with local ghost tour companies and has invited paranormal investigators in over the years. Some theorize that perhaps the paranormal activities is being caused by a particularly menacing anchor item, a porcelain doll. Now lastly, my favorite place. I really hope that I can go visit there again, hopefully next year when they have their festival again, but Fort Sisseton, South Dakota. And this one is going to be specifically on the Lady in White. There are other hauntings, and I will put the link in the description on where to read the other hauntings. Okay, so the Lady in White. In the late 1870s, a large infestation of bedbugs riddled the camp, and there was nothing much that couldn't be done about it. So every night, the ladies who worked in the commanding officer's house were required to take candles and burn bedbugs off the walls. A figure, known as the Lady in White, often appears in the upstairs window of the old house. She is seen wearing the nightgown of a servant, holding her candle to the wall. burning those bed bugs off. But the lady in white is not seen only in the commander's office. She has also been seen traveling to the officers' quarters. Sometimes she seems fascinated by the things around here, and she likes to appear to the boardwalk during the historical festival or other major events. Many non-believers have changed their minds because of her appearance. Maybe she is still here because her job is not done, or she might be attached to an artifact in one of the buildings. We may never know. Something about this place is the events that they have there are so old time. Like, you wear dresses, the guys wear, their little hat things or suspenders and all that. There's one night during the weekend that they have it where you go to the ball. You can if you want to. They have a bunch of animal skins. They make everything pretty much by hand. They have animal bones. They have, they have all sorts of things from back then. And they also do this thing, I think it's like the second or third morning, where they shoot off one of the cannons that is still in the middle of this field thing. But it's a really cool place, and I definitely would recommend it. It usually happens during, I think it's the first week of June. You guys will have to look at it, but yeah, 10 out of 10, definitely recommend.